Welcome. My name is Patrick Curran, and along with my ex-honor student friend Greg Hancock, we make up Quantitude. We are a podcast dedicated to all things quantitative, ranging from the relevant to the completely irrelevant. In this week's episode, Greg and I have fun exploring the questionably valid but always high-stakes role of the grade point average, or GPA. We consider the different ways in which grades can be assigned, what they may or may not actually represent, and how they have become increasingly inflated over time. Along the way, we also discuss not being agnostic, math versus sociology, avoiding homework, eye patches, revenge committee assignments, trust falls, bad dermatologists, meeting expectations, Trojan horse questions, failing law school, picking your battles, rolling D&D dice, and holding forth. We hope you enjoy this week's episode.
Did I ever tell you that I got kicked out of the honors program in college?
You have got to go out of your way to get kicked out of an honors program. What on earth did you do?
I know.
Was it a tennis ball cannon?
It was... So this was devastating to me. I just have to tell you right now, it completely messed with my identity. It might not have messed with your Coors Light drinking, stop sign shooting.
That's irrelevant. Let's stick to the story here,
Okay,
Hancock.
sorry. Okay.
I want to talk about your public walk of shame.
Fine. I crushed high school. I got a rockin' GPA. I got into college. It was not a smooth transition. College was hard. I was a math major and I was admitted into the honors program. And in order to stay in the honors program, you had to do two things. You had to complete a bunch of non-major type courses, what we might call gen ed requirements, but they were specific honors courses. And I had to maintain a specific, somewhat high GPA in my major courses. Did I mention that I was a math major? As I was getting near the end of completing my math degree, I sat down with my honors advisor, and the honors advisor said, I probably shouldn't have to tell you this, but it is now mathematically impossible for you to meet the GPA requirement. And I'm like, yeah, I probably should have known that.
I can't put these grades on the refrigerator. I can't even put them on the garage refrigerator.
My friend, who was a sociology major, no problem meeting the GPA requirement. My friend who was a drama major, no problem meeting the GPA requirement. Me, math major, big problem. I'm kind of still bitter about it, honestly.
Which I find immensely amusing.
I still have bad dreams.
My own honors story. I was in junior high, and based on my GPA in junior high, I qualified for the honors program in high school. Mm-hmm. You had to bring back a signed form from your parents, and they signed it, and I brought it back, and I threw it away. Because I figured honors courses would have more homework, and I didn't want to do more homework. But it was this trickle-down thing. I didn't go into honors where you have to be in honors to go to the AP classes.
Oh.
I'm in my senior year, and my mom says, so how many AP credits are you going to have? And I'm like, funny story.
And your parents were teachers.
They were teachers. They were also kind of hands-off. The kid will learn his lessons. That's how I ended up where I am. But today we're going to talk about GPA, grade point average. Now, there's actually a funny story behind this. When I was out on Greg's back deck this summer, we were coming up with ideas and this in the wild, and that we were going to pick these topics, but we weren't going to weigh in with any decision. And hopefully we've been able to do that with the handful we've done. Kind of what would you ask? We are agnostic. We're not drawing a conclusion. Well, GPA was going to be one of those.
Yeah.
And we started texting back and forth, and neither one of us can pull off the agnostic part.
Not on this one.
Those Trojan horse questions. I'm only asking a question, but one could say, is this the dumbest thing in all of academia? I don't know. And we decided we're just going to throw in the towel. And this is a regular episode where we are going to hold forth.
Yeah. As a topic, GPA is a really nice follow-up to the episode that we had on the SAT, because a very reasonable question that we didn't choose to ask in the SAT episode, but we could have, using our agnostic voice, if not the SAT, what are some of the other sources of information that we might be able to turn to, right? We would have asked something like that. And in fact, we got some really nice follow-up communication from some of the listeners out there asking about what are some of the alternatives for all the potential flaws that the SAT might have. What are some of the alternatives? And of course, GPA comes right up. So this, as a follow-up topic to what we did with SAT, was very, very natural. But I'll be damned if I can hold my tongue on this topic.
There is not a person out there listening who hasn't somehow navigated through this. Spending more time the night before your algebra exam computing what the minimum score is you need to get a grade in a class, that you spend more time on that than actually studying. Let's see. All right. 3 knowns, 3 unknowns. I got a C in algebra, but I can calculate to the 5th decimal point.
But if I take the determinant of this matrix and...
So we have all been through this.
Yeah.
We grade stuff all the time. And I don't mean just in academics or school settings or whatever, right? You go and look at the egg aisle and there's grade A eggs and grade AA eggs. Baseball. Any of you who are baseball fans, single A, double A, triple A, major leagues, we grade them. Mm-hmm. Greg and I were talking 10 minutes ago, and we just finished editing latent transition analysis, which is already out by the time you're listening to this. And I asked Greg, what was your final walk away? And he said a solid B+.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, I know exactly what that is. So we do this all the freaking time, except, oh my gosh, with GPA, what hangs in the balance?
Now, when you ask me to grade one of our episodes, one of the nice things is that you and I are on the same page. When I tell you I think it's a B to B+, you know exactly what I mean. I have communicated to you something about what I view as the quality of that episode. When we use grades have many different purposes. One of the first and foremost ones is as a tool for communicating. When I, as a parent, would, much to my kids' chagrin sometimes, look at the grades that they were bringing home in any given quarter or semester, to me, those grades were supposed to be communicating something about the achievement, the achievement of my kids in those classes. So first and foremost, to me, grading is about communication.
This is another one of those things that has come up over and over again over the years, where there are things that we do where I feel like we don't lean back and say, why? Mm-hmm. Why do we do it? I know we do it, and I know we've always done it, but why? And think to yourself, if you're either a student or if you're somebody who is teaching, if you assign grades, if you're hiring and you look at GPAs, why do we even do this? And what's interesting is there's not one answer to this.
That's right.
Why do we assign grades? Why do we have an overall GPA? Well, various people will argue what you just said is measuring student performance. Where are you relative to the material you're being exposed to? It is to provide feedback to students and parents.
Yeah.
Right? That's a big one, is how are you doing? For parents who have kids now in school, the whole thing with Power School, where you can get online and look right at the grades and what are the assignments, what have they turned in? It's communication to you. You can make an argument, and I think this is a big one, is it's motivational to the student. Mm-hmm. I hate giving midterms. I hate them. I hate grades. I hate assigning grades, but I do it, and I do it religiously, because if you give a midterm, a kid is going to sit down and spend time with the material in a way that they wouldn't otherwise do.
Yeah.
Even if you have an honors method, I want everybody Monday morning to have studied as if you had a test. Not one person in the room is going to do that. Not one. You can track student progress. Are they getting better or worse over time? This one's a tricky one. You can evaluate teaching, which is a little hard because is a good teacher give out A's or does an easy teacher give out A's? So whether you assign them or whether you get them, lean back and say, well, what are we trying to achieve with this? What is the purpose?
And this kind of reflection is so important on the part of the people who are assigning grades, right? As Patrick mentioned, these serve a whole multitude of functions on the part of the instructor. They're interpreted in a variety of ways by students and parents and the people who evaluate the teachers, right? Whoever the stakeholders are. But then they're used to make incredibly important decisions about scholarships and internships and admission to specific colleges, admission to particular programs.
Here are your grades.
Oh, no. If I don't get a C average, my dad won't let me go to Camp Krusty.
So many important decisions are made based on this thing, and the more we chip away at it, the more it's hard to believe that it's actually used to make such important decisions.
And on top of that, we all can't even decide how to assign the damn thing.
Yeah.
I don't know who I pissed off a dozen years ago, but somehow I was put in charge of a committee.
Like there's one person.
Oh, yeah, exactly. If any of you get appointed to head a really controversial committee, think about two options. One is, wow, somebody has a lot of confidence in me to take leadership of this. And the other one is just give a moment to say, what have I done to deserve this punishment? Because somebody is wreaking their vengeance on me. I'm going with the latter.
Yeah.
And I was put in charge of this grade inflation committee. We had a whole bunch of faculty. We're in our very first meeting, and I do an icebreaker, all right?
We're doing grade inflation trust falls today, everyone.
The icebreaker was a softball question. Let's just kind of get things going.
Look at you.
Oh, it's not. Tell me one fact about you nobody else knows. I couldn't care less what one thing about you that I don't know is. Do you know what I like about it? That I don't know it. The icebreaker was, what do we believe a grade represents? So I said, just hypothetically, you give a kid an 85% as a final grade. What does that represent? Let's go around the table. The first guy says, well, I kind of think of all the material I wanted a student to have, they reflected that they had about 85% of that material. Mm-hmm. You know, he got most but not all of what I wanted him. Went to the next person and they said, oh my gosh, that's not what a grade represents at all. That represents the student's relative standing among their peers in overall performance of the class. And the next person says, I don't agree with either one of those. I think a grade reflects motivation and commitment and participation. Participation is 20% of my final grade. Then another person said, well, I believe in the participation and motivation, but I think it's how are they performing relative to their potential as an individual. So that was one of my favorites.
Okay.
I'm like, well, then I should have had a 4.0 for like 20 years of school if it was potential.
Because no one thought you had any potential.
No, that I'm doing the best that I'm capable of.
Okay.
If I get 60% right on a test, it's like, dude, he's not going to do any better than that. He gets an A. Then the classic, well, I factor in improvement if they were getting better over time. And I leaned back and I was like, oh my God, we have half a dozen of the leaders in the department here and not one person at the table can even agree on what an 85% represents.
I would say that the people at that table are probably a very good representation of the different kinds of attitudes that are out there, right?
Exactly.
To put some formal terminology around it, some people are very criterion referenced in their orientation toward grading.
Oh, you're going to get all educationally on me, aren't you? Ooh, criterion referenced. Do tell.
Well,
Mister, I got kicked out of honors.
Patrick, you might not understand some of these big words, but I just want you to try really hard, okay?
Okay, and then I'll get an A? Because if not, my parent is going to call you.
Well, that would be interesting.
Because they're dead?
Good luck with that. Mrs. C? So criterion reference grading is when students are evaluated against some fixed or predetermined criteria, usually taking the form of some kind of learning objectives that have been laid out for the course. So these are the criteria, and they serve as the reference for which grading is to occur, hence the term criterion referenced grading. The first person that you described going around the table had sort of that orientation, right? I think this is kind of justifiable. I mean, if I dare tip my hand, I went to the dermatologist this morning. If you told me that the dermatologist had met over 90% of the skills that dermatologist was supposed to have, I would feel pretty good. But if you told me that dermatologist was top in his class and his class sucked, I don't really want him taking that thing toward my face that he's about to burn some stuff off with.
Or that he was really good at participating.
That's right.
Just every single lecture he asked stupid questions. Right. So he gets an A.
He participated and he exceeded his potential.
Is that why you have an eye patch on this morning? Did he miss with the liquid nitrogen?
He was close.
He only missed by 10%, so he gets a 90%.
I can't see you right now, but I can hear you. Anyway, that other framework for grading that we're sort of alluding to is one that is more norm referenced. And when people say, oh, I grade on a curve, or the top 10% are going to get A's and the next 20% get B's and all of that, which, by the way, in my second major, chemistry, that was used all the time when the faculty would say things like, well, you know, I expect the class to get around a 35 out of 100, and then I just curve it, which meant the top 10% of the class who got A's might have been able to do 40% of the things that were asked of them. I got through okay. I sure hope my dermatologist did better than that.
Well, that was like old school law school, right?
Mr. Hart, here is a dime. Call your mother and tell her there's serious doubt about your becoming a lawyer.
Completely.
The top 10% get A's, the next 10% get B's, and the rest of you fail.
Yep.
And there are some faculty who believe in that model.
I am not in favor of that. And this is why we're not doing an In the Wild episode.
Well, and you got kicked out of honors is why you're not in favor of that. If you had been higher in your class ranking, maybe you would not be talking to me right now.
Whatever. Here are different ways to think about that one, right? And this might align with the way the second person around the table in your meeting was thinking. On the one hand, if I am a horrible teacher, there's a sense of fairness that the students are not getting punished for receiving very, very poor instruction. There's humanity associated with that under those circumstances. Or I am a very bad grader, I am a very bad test constructor, whatever this might be. And I think that's why a lot of people will say, well, you know, we're going to curve the grades in the end to try to compensate for something else. On the other hand, if everybody is doing really well, imagine that, God forbid, you're a really good teacher and all of the students are meeting the objectives or most of the objectives that you have laid out for your course, for your instruction, for your assessment. And then you line people up against the wall and you say, well, I got some bad news for you people over there on the left. Yes, I know that you met most of the objectives for the course, but I'm sorry, you know, you're in the bottom 20%. So bad news for you. So there's a certain misalignment of that in terms of the things that we are actually trying to get people to achieve. That's norm reference. And then, of course, you have other things that are more standards-based or mastery-based. And I think this was implied when you had one of your faculty members who said something about improvement, right? There are some courses that are set up with a mastery orientation, and students redo things over and over until they have achieved whatever that ultimate goal is. And then the grade is sort of aligned with the extent to which they meet that goal. Think about air traffic controllers.
Or not.
Or not. Maybe don't think about air traffic controllers, right? But if you're going through let's just say it's a simulator, and at first they're landing 20% of the plane safely, and I really don't want to say, well, you're top of the class. Good for you. You want them to work through and then go through the simulator and get 30%, 40%. And then they're not getting out of that class until they're landing whatever. I don't know what the standard.
We're going to go for 100.
We'll go, okay, fine.
Some jobs, everybody got to be good. Like pilots. American Airlines can't be like, most of our pilots like to land. We just got a few bad apples that like to crash in the mountains.
But in the end, if you think about, and I love that activity that you did just to start off the committee that you pissed somebody off to have to chair. I love that activity because it really does highlight that imagine every person going around the table assigned somebody a B at the end of the class. None of those people have the same interpretation of what that B means.
We then treat that B as quintessentially standardized, right? We give it a numerical value. And if somebody has a 3.7 GPA, we assume that that is invariant across individuals, across schools, across teachers, across content, across philosophies of how you assign grades. To be clear, when we went around the room, there was not one criterion that I dismissed. I think it is important if people are motivated and committed and they get an exam back and come to office hours and try to understand where they made their mistakes. Yeah. All of these are meaningful, but if you're in a department, even if you don't have some kind of blue ribbon committee on this, at a faculty meeting, take 20 minutes. Have people describe what they believe a grade represents and how they assign it, and just see what is the heterogeneity within your own unit, because it is really amazing of the individual variability in these different criteria, but then it's all stuffed together in this single numerical value.
That's right.
And oh my gosh, high stakes decision. We talk a lot about measurement, and a really good example is depression. Imagine that every therapist had their own philosophical belief about scoring depression and what would require a treatment intervention and what would require for recovery. And that Greg had a philosophy about that, and I had a philosophy about that, and some other person had a different philosophy about that. We would never do that in 1,000 years.
Yep.
But that is what we do with the GPA. And then big ticket stuff relies on this.
We haven't used this word formally, but for me, in the end, this is all about the issue of validity. The word validity has a lot of different flavors to it, but what we're really talking about here all falls under the umbrella of validity as far as I'm concerned.
With a spicy dash of unreliability.
Definitely there's some reliability issues here, but first things first.
You're going to pick battles?
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields. We shall never surrender!
So, the classic example that we use when we're talking about validity and reliability is a target, right? And you are shooting at a target. Validity means that you are measuring the thing that you're trying to measure. In terms of the target, it means that you are aiming at the right target. You are hitting things in the center of the target. That winds up being validity. If you have someone who is on average circling that target but never hits it, that's not particularly reliable. On the other hand, you could have someone who is hitting a target way left of center of that target, but they're doing it incredibly tightly and really well clustered. Then we say, congratulations, you are highly reliable at doing the wrong thing. So when we have grading, we have to talk about issues of, are you even aiming at the right target to begin with? And then for me, after that, we can talk about tightening up your clustering around that target.
When we think about GPA as a single numerical value, that is a mean.
Yeah.
What goes along with that? There actually is a standard deviation. Now, that's not reliability in the variability way that you were describing with the target, but I always smile with that because in high school, I either got A's or I got C's, and I had a B average. Thank God for band. Imagine that you have a 3.0 GPA with a 0 standard deviation or a 3.0 GPA with a 1.5 standard deviation. Those are fundamentally different things. things, right? A 0 standard deviation is you got a B in every class that you took and you have a 3.0. But with a 1.5, it says, well, you're capable of doing well, but you don't always do well. Let's try to get our head around what does this numerical value actually represent from a construct validity standpoint?
Ooh, that's a good question, Patrick.
Ooh, does that fulfill my participation grade?
Not really.
No, it's not. Repeating what the teacher just said is not really participating?
Yeah, no. So you mentioned construct validity, right? And in construct validity, the question is, what is the construct here that GPA, grade point average, is meant to try to measure? If my kid brings home a B in math, it is entirely possible that that B means that they did a good job at meeting objectives. It's possible it means that they were better than most, but not all of the kids in their class. It could mean my kid tried hard, but doesn't know jack about math. Does that B mean that the teacher perceived my child to be highly motivated, but they still can't do any math? I don't think that we, as people who are in positions of grading, can even agree on what the construct is.
Can I read something for you really quick?
Please do, because I can't with my eye.
Okay, I am in my 26th year at the University of North Carolina. I never looked up the College of Arts and Sciences criteria for grading. It turns out they have one.
Really?
And I was feeling really bad about it until I read it. I'm going to read only the criteria just for an A. It says undergraduate grade definitions. A, mastery of course content. All right, I'm with you right out the door. Mastery of course content at the highest level of attainment. Oh, all right. That's exactly what I do.
Okay.
That can reasonably be expected, of students at a given stage of development.
You're losing me.
A grade states clearly that students have shown such outstanding promise
Wait.
in the aspect of the discipline that he or she may be strongly encouraged to continue.
Wait. What?
I don't...
You check the achievement box, the motivation box, the where they are in their development box.
And promise?
That is a
I don't
cluster.
even know what to do with that. 26 years later, I don't feel quite so bad. But my point is, okay, fine, I get all of those things, but it's kind of like, which is it? Is it attainment of course content? Is it performance at a given stage of development? Or is it subjective demonstration of promise?
If you told your people in that meeting that you chaired, you are not leaving this room until you come out with a description that you all can live with, that's what you would have come out with. Something... I mean, honestly, right, that all of these different perspectives have to be reflected in that. Otherwise, we're not going to sign off on it. And then what you get is something that is honestly not particularly useful.
Could I make things a little worse?
Oh, please. You're meeting my expectations.
Oh, good. I'm going to get an A because I also raised my hand even though you didn't call on me. Both my kids got straight A's in high school.
Okay.
They got a 4.5
What?
GPA on a 0 to 4.
I don't even know what that is, but okay.
And they were not in the top third of their graduating class. With straight A's and a 4.5 GPA. I kid you not.
How is that even?
That is the drunken punch in the face. Because all of this that we talked about, all the issues, all the questions, all the concerns, many high schools, but here's the problem, not all, many high schools have weighted GPAs. So it is 0 to 4 for a standard class. It's 0 to 4.5 for an honors class. And it is 0 to 5 for an AP class.
Wow.
Last night, I jumped on their high school webpage and looked at their posted information. The cutoff for the 50th percentile of their class was a GPA of 4.4. They determined the valedictorian by the 5th decimal place.
So then what the heck happens to this when it gets forwarded onto a college for admissions, right? You have some schools that don't play by these grading rules. You have some schools that do. I don't even know how to make comparisons across GPAs from kids who come from different schools, different environments, different honors and advanced placement opportunities to weight GPA. I don't know what to do with that.
Greg is not overstating the big ticket aspect of this single numerical value of qualifying for an honors program, of qualifying for a scholarship. The one that to me is most salient, and to be clear, I'm not criticizing the program. I actually think there's certain advantages to this, but the state of Texas has a top 10% rule. It's actually legislated. There's a state law that was passed in the 1990s. There is campus-to-campus wiggle room on this, but the broad stroke is if a kid graduates in the top 10% of their class in their high school, they're guaranteed admission to the University of Texas. This was an effort to expand equity and diversity in all ways.
Sure.
They were trying to give everybody a fair chance. Texas Tech, so one of the major campuses there, if you're in the top 10% class ranking, your high school, based solely on GPA, you're guaranteed admission to Texas Tech.
Wow.
We're going to set aside the whole holistic review, essays, extracurriculars. Were you Secretary General of Model UN? Doesn't matter.
Right.
If you're in the 9.9th percentile on your GPA, you're in. They link it then with test scores. So you can be in the top 25% of your class, but get an 1180 on the SAT. And then they have a 50th and a 75th percentile. I'm not arguing about that at all. Again, I think there are some real advantages to models that are like that, but it is entirely based on this numerical value that right now is kind of looking like the outcome of a roll of D&D dice for some of these kids. What classes do you take? What teacher do you get? Do you shop around for easy grades?
Yeah.
It really starts to make your one remaining eye twitch a little bit.
Let me ask you this question. Over the years, because you have been doing this for quite a while now, have you sensed a change in expectations around grades that the students are expecting, or pressure on your part to recalibrate your grading over the years?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all have. This goes back decades of grade inflation. There is unambiguous empirical evidence over decades that average GPAs have increased across all sorts of different factors. And if you're out there in the world listening to this and are interested, Harvard just released last month a report on grade inflation. And you can download it. It's posted publicly online. I've actually got a copy right here. It is really interesting reading. It is terribly well written. The cover author is Amanda Claybaugh, who is Dean of Undergrad Education. I don't know if she was a sole writer of this or if it was a group effort, but it's engaging, it's interesting. There's a little bit of colloquialism to it. But I'd highly recommend looking at this if this is something of interest to you. And the basis of the report is in 2005, 24% of Harvard grades in arts and sciences were A's. So 1 in 4. In 2015, it was 40%. And this year, it is 60%. Wow. 60% of grades given at Harvard arts and sciences are A's. The median GPA is 4.0. And the cut point this year to determine summa cum laude, graduate distinction, is 3.989. All right. And this, to be extraordinarily clear, is not unique to Harvard.
Right.
They get kudos for publicly embracing this as an issue. They have a really nice discussion about kind of what we've been talking about. What do they see as grades representing? What is the source of the problem? What can we do to try to rectify this? I see this as systemic, but I also see it in my own classes. Because you know what? I get tired of getting yelled at I get tired of getting badgered. I get tired of students coming in and saying, why did I get an A minus? I demand you regrade this.
Yeah.
And if you give a higher grade, a lot of those kids just go away.
There appears to be a mistake on my report card. You gave me a B+.
Now, Lisa.
I think you should reconsider.
Lisa, you're hurting me.
Every semester that I teach an undergraduate class, at the end of the semester, I get requests just to change the grade.
Yeah, not even justification.
No,
they just want a higher grade.
Can you bump that up a little bit? Wait, what? This mentality to me it's so foreign. Everything that you described around grade inflation and the pressures that we feel from the students or from other faculty, wherever those things are coming from, I feel all of that. And honestly, I don't exactly know what to do about it. This is just sort of where we are. In the end, when you had your committee, was anything resolved around it?
Oh, of course not. It was a committee of faculty members. Nothing was resolved. Dude, the Harvard thing has some nice recommendations, but I don't know. This is more of an institutional problem, I feel like, right? There are also some top-down feedback, I think, at a lot of institutions. Think of it as a business model. The owners want to keep the customers happy, and you're paying for a product. That's hyperbolic to a degree, but kind of not.
I agree completely.
And then the bottom line is, if you're a hard grader, you are going to get poor teaching reviews.
Yes.
And if you get poor teaching reviews, your ranking is going to drop for the 0.1% of the pooled money that they're going to give out to 50 faculty in the department. I mean, they're downstream effects.
Yeah.
Just go to Rate My Professor and look at the data. It's not deterministic. So somebody is out there screaming at their steering wheel.
Yeah, I am.
Right? This is not, you shouldn't be driving with one eye. Okay. But this is absolutely not deterministic. But come on, let's be honest about this. Easy graders get higher teaching reviews on average. And so I think it's this morass of problems that all come together in a perfect storm. And I don't think there is an easy solution to this.
One thing that I really want to clarify, I can gripe about GPAs all day long. I still believe in the idea of a GPA, and I really would like to have some number that tries to summarize something about how well people have mastered particular content. And so when I just finished that sentence, I'm really tipping my hand at what is no surprise to anyone, that I am very much criterion referenced in my orientation toward grading. As long as we're going to have GPAs, I would say let's at least try to make them meaningful. Let's try to make them something that we can actually use to make decisions in some kind of reliable, principled way. What that means as an instructor, for me, and other people obviously feel differently, is that I actually have goals and objectives that I would like students to meet. Those goals and objectives are communicated to the students. And so my instruction in the classroom is targeted toward those goals and objectives. The assessments that I give, midterm, final, homework, quizzes, essays, whatever, are aligned with those goals and objectives. The assessments try to cover the content in a balanced way so that if something is more important to representing someone's expertise in a particular content area, then those things are weighted accordingly, getting more weight toward those grades. If I am scoring things for the students, I actually try to be clear in terms of how I have scored things, right? How many times have you as a student gone to a professor and said, hey, how come I got an 82? And the professor said, I don't know, what you wrote just kind of seemed like an 82 to me. I think we can do better than that. And I don't happen to think that there is a place for participation in the grade unless you can actually concretely operationalize and measure participation. I don't think things like effort have a place in the grade unless there is some meaningful way that you can track that and justify it as being part of the grade. Because at the end of the day, when I see a grade from someone, or I see more broadly a GPA, I interpret that GPA to mean that they actually know something about the content. And so I would like to see my own behavior and possibly other people's behavior aligned with getting that GPA to reflect actual understanding of subject matter.
And that, folks, is why this is not an In the Wild episode. But a couple of walkaway points I have. First, have this conversation with colleagues.
Yeah.
I don't think we do. And I think this is one of those, it's academic freedom, right? We should be able to teach how we each choose to teach. Okay, no, I totally agree with that. But I don't think we should have that equal freedom in grading when my B plus is supposed to be the same as your B plus, right? Think about it as a measurement model. Think about it as construct validity. Think about it as measurement invariance. Is that B plus representative of the same underlying construct across person, place, and time, right? So have these conversations. But also, Greg, the one thing I would add to your little diatribe there, which I agreed with every single thing you said, I consider myself a hard grader. But you know what I've always felt is it is to give the higher performing students an opportunity to demonstrate knowledge rather than punishing the lower performing students for not being prepared for the exam. What does it mean if 60% of your class is getting an A on a final exam and you studied and you went to office hours and you had a study group at the library and you went in and some other kid went out drinking the night before and you both get an A? It undermines our entire system for those higher performing students to get an opportunity to demonstrate the work that they invested in, the knowledge that they acquired. And that's why I like having a higher ceiling. I think it's respectful to all students to have an equal opportunity to demonstrate the work that they invested and the knowledge that they acquired. That said, you still got kicked out of the honors program.
I did. And you still got into college on some kind of technicality.
All I can say is thank God for that second decimal place. You know what a 3.01 is? It's above a 3.0 cutoff. Thanks for tolerating us, everybody. I know this was kind of an oddball episode, and we didn't have these Trojan horses. It could be asked if. And so this is maybe a third kind of episode we have. Patrick and Greg hold forth.
It's right. It's therapy for us. Thank you. We appreciate that.
All right, we're out of here.
All right.
Take care,
Thanks,
everybody.
Bye-bye. Thanks so much for joining us. You can subscribe to Quantitude on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you go for things to make you feel ahead of the curve. You can also follow us on X, Blue Sky, or Instagram, where we are at QuantitudePod, and visit our website, quantitudepod.org, where you can leave us a message, find organized playlists, show notes, syllabi, and other fun stuff. And finally, get cool Quantitude merch for all your holiday shopping needs from redbubble.com, where all proceeds from non-bootleg authorized Quantitude Pod merch go to donorschoose.org to help support low-income schools. Today's episode has been sponsored by, well, me. 17-year-old me, actually. When I was a kid, I used to record audio messages on cassette tapes and send them to my mom, who lived across the country from me for much of my growing up. This is an audio recording that I made when I was in high school, working hard to get a good GPA so I could get into college. Spoiler alert, though, this just might foreshadow why I got kicked out of the honors program in math in college.
Hi, Mom. It's me. I thought this would kind of be a little more unique than to write a letter. You haven't seen me in a while. Still about 136 pounds, 5 feet, 9 3/16 inches, blonde hair, blue eyes. I got my braces off, and all my classes are going pretty good. Let's see. First period, I got physics with Mr. Tong. And we're doing some pretty nifty experiments. That's a really fun class. In second period, it's calculus. Things always seem really hard in calculus, and when we're doing assignments, I just never seem to get it. Third period is student government, and we're rewriting the Constitution. That's our major project for right now. Fourth period is my advanced placement English. We got over Shakespeare. Believe me, I was over it before we were over it. Fifth period, my French class. Everything's going pretty good in there. We're getting ready for a test on King Louis, one of them. And sixth period, my favorite drama. We've just been working on the musical. Everything's going pretty neat in that class. And I'm still a responsible young man.
You've been listening to Quantitude, the podcast that desperately hopes you're grading us on effort.